From Imagination Stage in Bethesda, Maryland,
You want something like magic?
Washington Post Live presents Oh, What a Night.
My boy.
A tribute to Andy Ockershausen.
Ockershausen.
He's a living legend, a DC media icon.
Last week, I learned how to pronounce Andy, your last name.
For ease, just call him Andy O.
I'd like to take this opportunity, Andy, to say I am also naming you in the lawsuit.
On March 5th, we called him our guest of honor.
I thought Andy was dead.
Nah, he's alive and well, but he was roasted by friends from heaven above.
Say, Jack, didn't he negotiate a Redskins WML contract with you?
Kindly address me as the Squire of Middleburg. And yes, Andy Messenhauer and I did a deal. He got the Redskins, and I got him to come out to my farm twice a week and clean out my stables.
Enough of those guys. Let's get on with the highlights of the show.
Does this copy get any better?
Better.
This is a Washington Post Live presentation. Oh, what a night. Brought to you by More Cadillac Hummer.
And I was having such a nice day.
Hi, everybody. And thank you for that wonderful sitting ovation. I'll do my best not to louse up the evening, but as I look around and see who's here, I think I'm too late. I had no idea that the average age of Andy's friends was deceased. Oh, what a night. Oh, what a program. We have a star-studded lineup for you. Local legends to give you a 50-year retrospective of sports media in the nation's capital. He's our man of the hour, our man of the past half century. In fact, he is so famous that he knows everybody, and everybody knows him. That's why they call him Mr. Contact. He's all con, no tact. And now I am so proud to introduce you to my dear old dad, the one and only Andy O. Okay. Andy, you and I have known each other for a while. 3 or 4 months. And I know all about your life and success and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not impressed. But a lot of your friends here tonight don't know about you.
Wait a minute.
When you
These
were
are all
younger.
not my friends. I want you to understand right off the bat. Some of these people, I don't care whether they're here or not.
10% of them really love you.
Okay, name the 10%.
All right, I'll tell you what. We're going to show Andy's life story. It won't take 80 years, I can guarantee it.
Andrew Martin Ockershausen, born March 13, 1929 in Washington, D.C., the youngest of Mary and Heinz Ockershausen's 6 children. Andy was an average student with an above-average ability to stand out in the crowd. Aki, as he was known back then, went to Eastern High School and played quarterback, or backup quarterback, but he dreamed of a future as the next Red Barber. With that in mind, Andy began to pursue a career in the business. His brother Harry helped Andy get a job as a page at WMAL television in September of 1949. He was paid the princely sum of $18 a week and a streetcar pass.
Was lucky enough, or fortunate enough, to latch on to a man named Jim Gibbons. I spent my whole career latching on to talented people, and Jimmy was my first guru and got me started in sales. He said, you want to be a sports announcer, you're wasting your time. The money and the prestige in this business is in sales, and he was right.
After serving the country as a TV producer for the Air Force, Andy launched his sales career by selling cars at McKee Pontiac on Florida Avenue, before returning to WMAL to sell TV spots. Andy had found his calling and he was quickly moved up the ladder into management. By 1960, Andy was running WMAL Radio, where two longtime staff announcers were just forming Washington's first morning team. Frank Harden and Jackson Weaver would spend the next 32 years together, and WMAL became another Washington monument.
I'm Andy Ockershausen of WMAL. Let me show you what it means to be the #1 voice in Washington. It means news up to 4 times an hour from ABC and our own news team. We've won more awards than any other radio station in the area. It means music, in stereo, fantastic sports coverage, weather, traffic reports, community events, but most of all it means people. People who care a lot about you. So listen to WMAL, the #1 voice in Washington.
WMAL stayed on top of the ratings because Andy insisted on keeping the station involved in the community by raising millions of dollars for a wide range of charities in a commitment to service that he continues today. Andy parted company with WMAL in 1986, a move that shook Washington's broadcasting fraternity. But he wasn't out of the spotlight for long. Andy helped launch a drive to bring baseball back to D.C. and parlayed that into a job running WFTY, Channel 50. Baseball wasn't ready for Washington, and before long, Andy was ready for his next move.
Well, I was asked one time in the early 80s, and I said, cable will never make it. That's a dead issue and a dead duck, and here I am with a dead duck.
As Home Team Sports became Comcast Sportsnet, Andy O continued his work as a business and community leader, mentor, and friend to Washington's sports and broadcasting communities. Which is why, 15 years after leaving WMAL, on one of our nation's darkest days, Andy lit up those same airwaves with his breaking news coverage on September 11th, 2001.
But now we have unconfirmed reports there has been an explosion. There is a fire at the Pentagon here in Washington. And Andy Ockershausen is on the line with us right now. Andy, what do you have?
No, I'm right about, maybe 200 yards from the Pentagon. And definitely something hit that building.
A Washingtonian with a unique knowledge, understanding, and love of his hometown and the broadcasting community that serves it. That is Andy Ockershausen. Coming up on Oh, What a Night.
Sam wanted me to ask, are we getting paid for this?
But up next, Andy O's legacy at WMAL. The talent, the leadership, the underwear. This is a Washington Post Live presentation of Oh, What a Night. Brought to you by More Cadillac Hummer.
Oh, What a Night is brought to you by More Cadillac Hummer, located in Chantilly.
Yeah, it's been looking a little scary, but history would suggest that those willing to stand up and keep their eyes open are the ones who see the big opportunities. Of course, it never hurts to be sitting next to a marketing agency who's been on the ride before. Give us a call. We promise not to scream in your ear.
Local community business banking since 1998. Convenient Metro DC locations, custom financial solutions, and personal service beyond compare. Eagle Bank, we're listening.
How is Eastern's Automotive Group been the area's #1 used car dealer for the past 20 years? We have dozens of buyers attending thousands of factory auctions, handpicking from millions of cars. Our cars are thoroughly scanned by certified technicians and must receive a clean Carfax history report. So bypass retailers and those high retail markups, because there's never been a better time to buy one owner. Select with confidence from our stock of over 2,000 plus cars at all times.
Hey, Andy O, Jason Campbell. On behalf of the Washington Redskins, we would like to wish you a happy 80th birthday and hope that you continue to have many more and stay off the beach. You have no six-pack.
All I can tell you is I'm very proud of the fact that I've created for Andy O a very small fortune. We won't mention the fact that, of course, he began with a big one. Happy birthday, Andy.
Happy birthday, Andy. We love you.
When you donate to Goodwill, your donations help provide job training and employment services to people with disadvantages and disabilities. and all donations are tax deductible. Please donate to Goodwill today.
For over 90 years, we've employed the best minds to help solve our clients' biggest problems.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Booz Allen Hamilton, strategy and technology consultants to the world.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon, and we're here to pay tribute to Andy Ockershausen.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. I thought Andy was dead.
You know Andy's not dead. Mo Siegel, he's dead. They were best friends, but Andy's not dead.
Are you sure? I saw Andy in the lobby. He looked dead.
Stop. He's alive, he's well. He's been a very important man in D.C. sports for years.
Really? What did he do?
He ran radio stations. He ran TV stations.
Ran him into the ground. I worked for him twice. At WMAL Radio and Channel 50 Television. Just about the cheapest guy I ever saw.
You're so ungrateful. He was not. He's got all sorts of friends in Washington. They swear by his generosity. He buys things for people all the time.
Like what? Did he buy Charlie Brotman that hair?
You could use Brotman's hair.
Oh, and you couldn't?
No, I couldn't. Andy Ockershausen is a wonderful man. He's smart, he's funny, and he knows where all the bodies are buried in Washington.
His body should be buried in Washington for all the stations he killed. He probably killed the banks, too, like Pincus.
Will you stop, please? Stop it. This is Andy's big night.
Yeah? What's he eating? Oatmeal?
Andy, we love you.
Yeah, l'chaim. You know what that means. Siegel told you.
Let's meet our first moderator. We all remember WMAL and their most popular on-air personalities. In the morning, it was Hardin and Weaver. In the afternoon, of course, it was Trumbull and Core. Well, think of these two teams as bookends for the midday talent. Let's welcome our old friend, Tom Gager.
Those days are gone. You don't have to do it anymore.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here representing the greatest broadcast team in Washington, D.C. history. Most of them are here tonight. We'd like to mention Felix Grant, of course, and Jackson Weaver both died and no longer here. John Lyon is in the audience. Now meet the rest of them. First off, Bill Mayhew, host of the All Night Show. Bill Trumbull and Chris Core. And Frank Hardin. This is going to go on for quite a while, as you probably can figure out by now. Sit down, Andy.
Is that? Go ahead.
You're comfortable?
Not yet, but
okay, you will. It's going to have some zingers.
2 more cocktails, I won't even care.
We'll start with Bill Mayhew. Bill was present when Andy was hired at Home Team Sports, which is the forerunner of Comcast. What was that like?
Well, I'll tell you, they invited me over to Baltimore to meet the head of Home Team Sports. And I said to the gentleman, I've worked with Andy for 28, 30 years. What's he going to do for Home Team Sports? And this man said to me, he's going to go to any party to which he has not been invited. He'll be the noisiest man in the room. He'll insult more people than he even knows. And maybe once in a while, he'll mention Comcast Sports.
Bill and Chris, you guys did the afternoon show. Bill, you've been there a lot longer, 5 years longer than me, as a matter of fact. Anything unusual ever happened that you could bring up and talk about?
No. Well, you want something like magic?
Sure.
Okay. Chris did the last hour of our show alone. Chris Korb, 6 to 7. He threw me out of the studio. I'm walking in the hallway. I look down the hallway, and there's this angelic figure. He's got a halo, white outfit. He starts walking toward me. And I'm wondering why this angel is hitting itself in the back of the head with a tennis racket. The closer we got, I realized it wasn't my guardian angel. It was Andy. Andy comes up to me. He's got a white tennis shoes, white socks, white shirt, and a pair of tennis shorts. When I say short, I mean short. I mean Short, 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 tight, short. And I'm looking him over, and all of a sudden I look down, and I see something waving at me. I won't go any further than that. So, to break, I don't know where to look, you know. I'm looking around. So all of a sudden, Andy breaks the ice and he says, "Hey, Billy, got any extra underwear?"
One of the things that we were all encouraged to do by Andy, and was always beating us up to do this, was to get out into the community. And Trumbull and Core, you had a parade in Georgetown?
The Gross National Parade, which went for about a dozen years or so, a silly parade in Georgetown, and raised a lot of money for the D.C. Police Boys and Girls Club. And I probably was Andy's idea. I don't know. It depended on how many drinks he'd had that night. But
He copied the Doodah
parade in Pasadena. But yeah,
your girlfriend went out there and came back with the idea.
We. I just want to say one thing. On the occasion of my 40th birthday, they had a roast for me at Avenel Country Club. Some friends did. Some speakers came up. This guy was one of them. This guy was one of them. When he stood up, I said, "Let me tell you right now, this is a really bad idea." So, payback is hell, Andy.
Oh, I know that.
Frank Harden was half of the most successful broadcast team in the nation's, I just said nation's capital history.
In the nation.
In the nation. As Andy will attest, the shares of the Hardin Weaver program were just phenomenal, and those numbers have never been duplicated.
Never will.
Now, did Andy...
Which one are you, Hardin or Weaver? I keep...
Frank,
not Dude and Doug, I can tell you that.
Well, you tell him what's his name, then my name is Frank Hardin.
Yeah. Frank, did Andy get his hands on the controls of the morning program? Did he mess with the music or anything?
No, and I'll tell you what about Andy. One time we were appearing, one of the many personal appearances we did. And Andy was also on the speaker's rostrum. And I remember one remark he made. He said, "I often try to tell Hardin and Weaver what to do, but they ignore me."
Best thing they ever did.
That's right.
Still ahead,
You know, Andy, you sweet devil.
Willard Scott and Maury Povich pay homage to Andy O. But up next,
Hey, Rocket, hey, Rocket, hey, Rocket.
Riggo and Doc Walker share memories, while Mark Mosley kicks him while he's down. This is Washington Post Live presents Oh, What a Night.
I'm Charlie Gibson from ABC News in New York. I want all of you who are gathered there to honor Andy O. to close your eyes for just a moment and in your mind spell the word Ockershausen. Now, you're all his friends, and so perhaps you can do it. But I was a young guy just starting out my career working for Andy, and I figured I better know how to spell his last name. O-C-K-E-R-S-H-A-U-S-E-N. I figured if I ever had to do it, well, I'd better know it, because if I didn't, I figured I'd be out the door. Luckily, Andy never kicked me out the door. Andy, it is a privilege to be here to wish you well and honor you, along with all of your friends assembled tonight.
From Comcast Sportsnet, our hosts for the evening and the official sports network of the Washington Redskins, please welcome Chick Hernandez.
How are you? Good evening. Mr. Volkswagen, good to see you again. It is my honor to, I get to play straight man tonight, which is not unusual for me. So this is a very cool honor. Let me introduce my panel this evening. We got three Redskins who you know very well, beginning with league MVP in 1982, the kicker, Mark Mosley. One of the original Hogs, Doc Walker. And Hall of Famer, John Riggins. Legend. Love you, I can relate to that. All right, sit down, please.
Mr. Ricketts look good with his young wife.
He looks good.
I got one myself.
You got a young wife yourself?
The young wives look better, Andy.
See, what y'all don't know is, in our newsroom, I am sometimes referred to as Mr. Inappropriate. But when he walks in, I got carte blanche.
You are the man, Jack.
No, you are the man. So when you were inventing radio with Mr. Marconi, how did that go?
He had bad breath.
He had bad breath. Nice.
He ate Italian every day.
You guys landed the Redskins broadcast rights back in 1963. How big was that to get the team, the broadcast rights?
It was huge because we'd had a management expert come in and say, get rid of that because football's not going anywhere. And we lost it for a while, but through the efforts of a guy named Leo Diorsi was the managing partner then. And Mr. Diorsi was a good friend of a man named Jim Gibbons, who had been our morning man, and he put us together. And we made the deal with Diorsi to get him back on WMAL. And then Ed Williams took over. I think Leo died, and Ed Williams took it over. But, you know, Williams was representing Jack Kent Cooke. That was his role, to represent Cooke in Washington, and he did. And we lived happily ever after until they decided they didn't want us anymore.
Well, and it happens to a lot of us.
These guys know, since they left WMAL, the Redskins have never won a championship.
Absolute fact. I used to do the post-game interviews. And I was paid very handsomely, I will say that. But I believe you're 2 payments short, Andy.
Ooh. Bob Bowen.
He offered me a job to do that, and he offered me $25 a show.
No, I've never known Andy to be cheap. Andy's always been first class, pay a little bit under the table, pay a little bit over the top.
But it wasn't much, I can tell you.
Well, yeah. Usually it was a black and white television set.
That's a lot of that.
Yeah, it was a lot of that.
Well, Doc, your first recollection of meeting Volkswagen?
Well, in 1989 at WMAL, and Steve Johnson, who I think is here, who I adore,
hope so.
He was being mentored under the great Andy O. And Steve Johnson had the key to the treasure chest at MAL, where all the cups and the prizes, all the awards, which Andy governed over. So I just watched Andy. We had breakfast in the morning. They were doing the coffee, the bagel deals, of course, all the legends in place. And I'm filling in for Tim Brent. Tim is here. Of course, the legend, Ken Beatrice. And, you know, this powerful crew. And I just went over there to volunteer to try to figure out how to do it. Ended up jumping into it, watching the ringmaster here coordinate everything, first class, and he had an eye for talent, both male and female.
Yeah. You guys are the old guard of the Redskins. He knows, we got Mr. Golston up in the audience. Current Redskins are very familiar with Andy. What do you think makes him so, he gets along with all generations? What do you think that is?
It's that loud voice that you hear always in the background back there yelling at you. It's always Andy. Everybody knows Andy.
White noise?
Yeah. Well, George Stark.
Oh, I know.
I'm part of the new breed. I'm a young guy. Now, Stark has been here forever. That's him and Andy. Oh, yeah.
By several years.
Where are you, George? Stand up.
There he is. Okay. George Stark, the head hog.
Really, the malt shop is what Andy was all about.
Yeah.
That's his claim to fame.
Legendary.
It has nothing to do with WMA.
Lisa, we're not going to get into that.
What you've been seeing there. And it was, you know, you go into the malt shop, it was always, hey, Rocket, hey, Rocket, hey, Rocket, over here, Rocket, hey, you see Rocket? Rocket's here. Hey, come here, talk to Rocket. Everybody talk to Rocket. Hey, Rocket.
Talk about my Rocket. John knows.
Yeah, yes, he does. The Super Bowl trips. Did you take the staff to go see?
We took everybody. We went to 4 or 5 Super Bowls when they were in WMA.
I heard that.
Know that.
Yeah, I heard that.
First one in 1973.
I've heard that somewhere.
I want to keep saying it too.
When you were,
and they won 3 of them.
When you were out,
and they blew 2.
Oh yeah. We can say that.
Well, it's true.
I know. We'll bleep that.
John saved them the first time. Either John or Thiesman.
Thiesman. Nice. I told you because Joe's not here. You call him Thiesman, aren't you?
Well, that's his name.
When you were, I know it's his name. Oh, Joe. I'm sorry, Joe, but he's 80.
It was his name.
He's 80. It was. When you were out late at night partying at the Super Bowl, did you see any of these guys out?
I remember Doc Walker took a whole group of guys to his mother's house when they were out there for a game against the Rams, and they had a huge dinner party. His mother was a world-class cook and feeder, and he didn't ask me.
81.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Anaheim Stadium.
I was in charity work.
It was a
You
charity
might have
deal.
seen me out at night if I was out at night and I was working on a charity campaign.
Right. Doc and John have their own shows, have had their own shows, will have their shows again.
Absolutely.
When you see these guys, who, a lot of football players can't make that transition. What did you see in guys like these guys that can do it?
Talent. They're people. John is a terrifically bright man. A lot of people don't think that, but I know it. He's very, very bright, and he was great in not only football, but he was a track star at the University of Kansas.
Yeah.
And Doc Walker was a broad jumper at UCLA.
Really?
Let that sink in for a while.
Not about me. It's all about you.
There's a difference, as Andy will point out, there's a difference between a broad jumper and a long jumper.
Yeah.
Long jumper, too.
But this isn't about me.
No.
This is about Andy.
I know, but I recognize his talent.
Did you mean
Jim
long
Steffen.
jumper?
Jim Steffen is the one that cued me on him. We tried to get Jimmy. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I hope he's doing well.
So long jump, not broad jump.
He did both.
This is about Andy.
I'm just trying to...
This is not about me.
I'm just trying to get clarification.
An hour when you cover my show. Okay, so let's just deal with Andy on this.
The locker room with Doc Walker, we all listen every day.
Yes,
That's where
we
we
do.
get our tips from.
Kevin Sheehan,
Of course, there are a lot of amazing people that are here tonight that want to wish Andy Ockershausen a happy birthday. It is my duty to do that on behalf of myself and all of my colleagues at Comcast Sportsnet to do just that. And the mayor of Washington, D.C., Adrian Fenty, could not be here tonight, but he did send this along. In fact, we just got this. This is real. I mean, the seal is there and everything. I'll read you a little portion of it right now. As mayor of District of Columbia, it is with great pleasure that I take this opportunity to congratulate you as you celebrate your 80th birthday, yada, yada, yada. On behalf of the residents of the District of Columbia, happy birthday, Andy O., and that is from Adrian Fenty. So that was very nice of the mayor.
Andy and I have been best buddies for 65 years. When he left WMAL, after being there for 37 years, he called me up and says, Charlie, I'd like to move in your office. And I said, but it's a very small office. I'll only be there for a couple of weeks. I just want to get organized, and I'd really appreciate it. 2 years later, he was still there. Because most of us here tonight think that they know Andy pretty well. They know him as a pain in the ass. He keeps bugging me for money and gifts and contributions and tickets and auction items, anything of value that's free. But what they don't know is that not one item is kept by Andy. It's always for the police boys and girls clubs, the leukemia fund. It's for heroes. It's for Paul Berry's neediest kids. It's always for people in need. And he goes out of his way to do the same thing for friends and workers who need a helping hand. He's probably helped 10% of the people in this room. That's how he defines success. Well, I've known Andy forever, and from an early stage, Andy has always been motivated by success. When he was just 3 years old, success was not wetting his pants. And now that he's 80 years old, success is still not wetting his pants. When you think of Andy, two words actually come to mind: love and lunacy. You actually have to be a semi-lunatic to love this guy. And I guess that's the kind of guy I am. I love the guy.
Coming up on Oh, What a Night, presented by Moore Cadillac Hummer. Sonny, Sam, and Frank, together again.
I didn't sleep at night. It was sunny. You know, nobody would come and knock on the door. Is he in there? He's somewhere.
But up next, what the heck makes Andy Ockershausen so special that Willard Scott was moved to tears? We'll be right back.
You're a good man, and we've had fun together over the years, and it took me about, I guess, last week I learned how to pronounce Andy, your last name. But anyway, you are terrific, and thank you for your friendship. As I say, you helped me out as a page, and I don't know more, because, you know, fewer of us left all the time, and God, I love you. I really do. And I just appreciate you so very much. You're a good man and a hard worker, and you've accomplished so much. We love you, Andy. Is that it?
That's it.
Boy, what crap have you ever seen in your life?
Guy owes me 20 bucks.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
yeah.
if he pays his bills, I wouldn't
What'd you
mind.
say? He doesn't pay his bill?
He got my sister pregnant.
I heard about that. Yeah, that's right.
God.
He didn't even call or send flowers.
No child support, not even a hello.
No, or a goodbye. Well, that's all right. I guess that's him. He can't help himself.
Let's talk about Andy's charity work. They say that he's a walking Rolodex, and if you're doing anything, you want to have him on your team.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, you know, he is, actually, I must tell you, and Tom Cookley is in the audience. Tom started a charity at Channel 7 called Neediest Kids, and Andy was there at the time, and he's been on the board for the last 30 years, and he is truly the conscience of our charity. I mean, you know, Andy remembers why we were there, and he's not afraid to tell you at a meeting why we were here, and, you know, how come the money's in the bank? Folks, he's just incorrigible. He just says anything comes to his mind, but you know what? He's always right, and people hear it, and we're delighted because he reminds us of what our purpose is. Yeah. And Bobby, that is to serve children, not to put the money in the bank, but to get it out to help kids, and Andy's been doing that for 30 years.
Bobby, do you have a story?
He know how to get things done because in those years when I took the team away on trips, we didn't allow outside guests on the plane. And we're leaving for Dallas, and this guy is standing there, and I don't know who he is. And he's getting on the plane. I said, hey, hold it. You know, we don't take outside guests on the plane. And he said, oh, no, I'm with Sonny. I said, but you're not one of our coaches. He said, oh, no. He said, I'm the priest. So we're in a hurry to get out of town, so I don't have time to argue with him. But when he said priest, I kind of bagged back, and we get on. And the plane takes off, and I keep looking back because you know, and so this guy got the best seat on the plane. And so I finally turned to Sonny, and I said, who is that guy? And he said, I don't know. But from a serious point, Andy has always been there because we started a tournament locally on behalf of leukemia and lymphoma. And we need the publicity and all the things you do. And this guy stepped up as usual and made sure that we got pub so we could get started. And now we're into our 19th year, and he got us going.
That's incredible.
Wow. And you want to know something?
That's incredible, Bobby.
I'm going to take that one step further. If you go ahead and you call Andy now, on his phone it says, Andy Ockershausen, not here. If I knew you were calling, I would have been here. I know, right? And you know what? That's exactly what Andy is. If he knows you need him, he's right there. And your phone, even though you take it as a total joke, every time I call, I always think, you know what? If I need him, he's there. And that is Andy O. You can
ask the Metro.
They're being very modest, but this is what it's all about. These three people epitomize to me community involvement, because what it means is to give and you get back. I will tell you Every one of them will tell you they've gotten more out of this than they ever gave. And that's what it's all about. That's what I preach to people. When you get involved and give to the community, what you get back, you can't figure it. It's immeasurable what you get back for what you do.
Still ahead, a toast from the guest of honor, and nobody in the crowd was safe. But up next...
And bothered every vein of switch liqueur, of which virtue then gendered is a fluor. We didn't have anything to do for 30 minutes. We had to just talk.
The Redskins' dynamic trio is reunited. How they first got together is a story you've got to hear. This is Oh, What a Night, a Washington Post Live presentation brought to you by Moore Cadillac Hummer.
Well, how about this group? Tell me how you decided.
Jim, before we get
Sure.
Sam wanted me to ask, are we getting paid for this? Hey, let me say this will be the first time we got paid.
Hey, fellas, the last check Andy picked up was hitchhiking in Prague.
He paid my way up from Florida.
That's right.
Did
Sam,
you get my
he
ticket?
got 200. What, you didn't get anything? Oh, you live here. Sorry.
No, you said Gallant was a check.
Who was first and how did it start?
Well, Frank was. Frank was a fabulous announcer of the Washington Wizards. I mean, the Bullets. And I said, this guy should be doing. We had a guy named Steve Gilmartin, and Steve left to go to Houston. And we hired Frank to do the play-by-play. And then somebody from Marriott called me and said, we got a guy in New York that you probably haven't heard of, but he should be working the Redskins and not the New York Giants. And I said, I think I'll go to New York and visit him. But before they talked, I went to this place, the J.P. Stevens, a huge manufacturing company. And they took me into a room. It was like a leaded room. It was guarded and said, you got to sit here and be quiet. We will bring Mr. Huff to you. And they did. That's our first meeting. And then Sonny had an agent. And I said, whatever you do, don't use an agent. They're just going to take your money. You're not going to get another dime. He said, but he's also representing Sam. I said, well, you really aren't going to get another dime.
And we didn't.
I didn't.
Sam and I worked 2 years together. I started in '79. And then Andy, I'll give Andy credit for this. Andy came to us and he said, I'd like to add a third guy in the booth. What do you think? And we said, who? And he said, Sonny Jurgensen. Well, it was no problem for me because Sonny and I had worked together at Channel 9 and become friends, and we worked well together. We did basketball. He's a hell of a basketball
Great
player.
announcer.
Yeah. So I wasn't worried at all. I was worried about Sam. And he would be upset. What I didn't realize was Vince Lombardi made these two roommates in training camp and during the season when they played together.
He paid Sam to live with me to keep me in at night.
So they were great friends. So it was a matter of great instincts on Andy's part, putting us together, and it just went from there.
Sam, your recollection.
I didn't sleep at night. It was sunny. You know, and Lombardi would come and knock on the door. Is he in there? He's somewhere. No, I couldn't sleep. No, you never did. You know, it's just unbelievable. We have been together. He came from those terrible Eagles. I hated the Eagles. And I came from New York, and we were, you know, he ran the offense and I ran the defense. There's not a smarter guy in this world than Sonny Jurgensen. Great quarterback, great person. Let me tell you that. And Frank and I did, you know, after Steve Gilmartin followed his wife to Houston, and we don't have anybody to do play.
Somebody else's wife he followed to Houston.
Well, Andy, you should know. I didn't follow those things.
Story.
You know, you were on the inside of that. So now Frank did the play-by-play, and I, you know, and Andy was going through play-by-play guys. I mean, I had to keep a couple of them sober in order to make the broadcast. He put me up with some of these guys, and then we finally got Frank from television, and nobody would go out with Frank, so we were all right, you know. And so now Andy must have owed Sonny
it's
something.
about me, not about you.
Tell him to wrap it up. Tell him to wrap it up.
Jeez. He's from West Virginia.
These two guys, Sonny was doing television. You know, Sonny was doing television.
Yes,
and this really
for CBS.
happened. And I don't know what happened there. You must have gone to New York and you went out together, but he was let go.
And he worked for Channel 7.
Sam.
Did you know he worked for Channel 7?
Yeah, I did. I did.
So did Sam.
Let's cut him off. Nobody's traveled the world more with Andy than this guy right here, Sonny.
That's right. We've traveled through Greece, all through Italy, to Kenya. We've been all over the world together. I was with him when he was with his daughter, Janice. And, is that your daughter? Margot! I'm sorry.
Janice, you've never heard that.
But we have, and we've had great times throughout the world, really, and he's done some strange things.
They're still talking. They're still talking about the wedding reception at your house when you all got back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fabulous
out in
party.
Mount Vernon. That was one of the greatest of all time. Hey, let's take a time out. There's somebody else that wants to say hello and happy birthday to Andy.
Andy, I'm sorry I can't be there for the occasion, but you see, Andy, I'm still working. I mean, I have to work. With all the abuse you gave me all these years, I mean, I have to work for a living. But I see you've gathered Jergy and Frank and Sam around, so that's good. And by the way, Andy, if I can say this to you, I've been thinking about everything that went on in our lives, and especially the guidance that you gave me and all of us in Washington media the last 50 years. And with that in mind, Andy, you are the father.
You are the father. Maury Povich. There's no question but the fact that these guys are legendary in Washington, luminaries. Certainly you put them together. How did you guys get into sync? Know when, who was going to speak and when?
I was worried about that.
Frank did that.
Frank did it.
Frank is in control. But Andy came to me, truthfully, and because evidently Frank was worried about me. I don't know what the hell he's worried about me for, because I worried about him more than me. And so
Frank,
Andy came to me, and he said, Sam, you know, I want to talk with you. And I said, well, what about? I thought he was going to give me a check for a change, which was wrong, you know. But he didn't give me anything. And the whole time I worked for him. So he said, look, Sonny, I can put three of you together. Frank, Sonny, and Sam. And I said, well, you know, Frank and I have a pretty good broadcast. It's pretty good. But I'll tell you what, if you bring Sonny Jurgensen in here, it'll be a great broadcast, and it is. It is. Sure. He makes it great.
It's true.
He makes it great.
See, you know, he's talking about, you know, Sonny did a basketball game for us because the University of Maryland was not on television, but they got on because nobody could get in there. And he did the game and read all his poetry.
Shakespeare.
He did it for hours while they sat on the ball.
I remember. That was before the shot clock.
Prologue to the Canterbury Tales.
That's it, the Canterbury.
Wanda the Prilla with the Shuasuta, the Deuce of March, it pursed to the Ruta, and bothered every vein of switch liqueur, of which virtue engendered is a fluor. We didn't have anything to do for 30 minutes. We had to just talk.
In those days, he was drinking, too. Things have changed a lot.
That's right. It came easier then.
That's what he learned in North Carolina. What do you think I learned in West Virginia? Go to hell.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sonny, Sam, and Frank.
Coming up, James Brown on Andy O, a bobblehead take on Andy O, and Andy O on Andy O. Oh, yes. Oh, what a night is back after this.
Andy, I'm so sorry that I can't be there to celebrate your 80th that you had in hand in helping my career as well. You always had some very encouraging words, and what I really like is even offering some constructive criticism. You know, now, as I mentioned that constructive criticism, there were some who will get into these intellectual debates and say, gosh, you know what, isn't that oxymoronic, constructive criticism? The fact of the matter was you did give me some nice nudges in terms of areas of improvement to have been blessed to be involved in broadcasting for as long as I have. And you know what? Even though you are indeed one of the luminaries, one of the natural resources here in the Washington area, in terms of what you've done, I like you more so because your heart is as magnanimous as your influence has been in this arena. What you've done for so many charities and community organizations is second to none.
Well, thanks to all the friends at SchulteSports.com, everybody here tonight will get an Andy O souvenir bobblehead doll. And And the first one will go to the bobblehead himself.
Oh, my God.
Hey! Ho! All together, happy birthday to you.
You can blow them out.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Andy. Happy birthday to you. And now I know he's old because the candles cost more than the cake. That's old.
Now, there are a lot of things I've got to say. Number one, I want to say, Charlie, thank you. You were very brief tonight, which is unusual for you.
Thank you, Andy.
But we have been doing this act since probably 1935, probably. We have a brother that couldn't be here tonight because he didn't remember where it was, but he's 100 years old, and he's living out in Norbeck and doesn't know it either, but he's a wonderful man. You all can move that now. Take it and put it in the car. No, put it somewhere that it goes in my car, would you please?
Would you like to blow out?
Everybody.
Do we think he can blow
All right, guys,
out all
help
those
me.
candles? He needs help.
He's celebrating right now with all the...
Thanks, guys.
Come here, guys. Okay, there are very few special people in this world. I was very, 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 very fortunate enough to marry one of them. Yeah. And now I'm also very fortunate to work for one of them. And I don't know where she is, but I would tell you people, I've been around, as you all know, a long time, and I've seen a lot of things. I have never, ever, ever worked for anybody or with anybody as special as Rebecca Schulte.
Here, here.
I see her. She's fabulous. Now, what Rebecca has that's severely lacking in a lot of people, and that is leadership. And she's led this network to what I've seen in my almost 16 years with them. It'll be 16 years on the 8th of March. She has led, Betty, I'll do the ad-libbing. She has led this network to, I believe, a lot of prominence that we never had before. And she's just wonderful. And she and Janice fool me. I know nothing. I don't know why you people are here, a lot of you. I know why you're here, for a cigarette. But it's just been an absolutely super evening. And I just wish my dear friend Bud Doggett would be with us, because Bud died, this special man in my life, who was a guiding star to me in the charity field. That was Bud's life, was to give. And he did it every day, and he told me 50 years ago, give and you'll get back many ways, and he was so right. We also were fortunate that we didn't let Henry Sachs on the microphone. That's Shipwreck Henry. But you're all special. Obviously, if you weren't special, you wouldn't be here. And I appreciate all of you so much, and I especially appreciate this community, which I find is a fabulous place to live, to grow up, to work, to give. And it's going to go on for a long time. Things are rough right now, but we've been through it before, and we will come back. As soon as we get that Geico order, we'll all be in shape. That'll really help us a lot. But I didn't get a chance to see everybody and talk to you, and I probably won't now, but I'll try. I understand that the refreshments are open, the bar is open. It's not a cash bar, right? These people leave, it's a cash bar. Say cash bar, and most of them leave. And I hope we have a chance to chat. Where is the party, Janet?
Right here.
On the stage?
Right
Oh, in the back. They know where to go. I want to see everybody and kiss and hug, and especially the girls.
Line up.
Line up, girls. Well, thank you so much. I love the bubble doll. That's Ray Schulte. You did it again, baby.